And I think that's something that every woman needs to hear. You can forgive someone and still honor your boundaries. You can release what they did without returning to what they're capable of doing again. Hi, my friend, and welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Dell, and with God's help, I've overcome some of the toughest trials in life that I could ever have imagined. Do you find yourself struggling to move beyond a heartbreak or a hardship, asking God, why me? Well, I'm here to help women just like you heal and build the resilience to overcome life's greatest trials. If you long for joy and confidence again, this podcast is for you. So grab your headphones and those hardships. Let's talk. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman, the space where we talk about healing, self-confidence, and resilience all through God's love. If you've been following along, you know that we are in the middle of our Ruthlessly Intentional Series. And I've got to tell you, this one is about to get real. We've talked about honesty, which is facing your truth. We've talked about healing, which is resting, releasing, and rebuilding. If you haven't yet listened to those 2 episodes, let me encourage you to hit pause, go back, and listen to both of them. The feedback I've received has been consistent, that they resonate with many of you. And they set the stage for today's episode, because today we're going even deeper into something that every woman will have to wrestle with at some point in her life, and that is forgiveness. Because the truth is that forgiveness doesn't always feel fair. It doesn't always feel spiritual, and it definitely doesn't ever feel easy. But it is necessary. It's necessary if you ever want to walk in peace again. So grab your tea, your coffee, your journal, your tissues if you need them, because we are going to talk about how to be ruthlessly intentional about forgiveness. And not the sugar-coated kind, but the kind that actually will free your soul. There's a certain kind of pain that roots itself deep, long before you even understand what it means to carry it. And for me, that pain started in childhood. My father struggled with alcoholism. He made choices that left scars. And those scars were not just on my mother, but they were on our home and on what safety felt like. And for years, I told myself that I was over it and that I had forgiven him because I wasn't angry anymore. But deep down, that wound was still there. It was just tucked away in the corners of my heart. And when I became an adult, I realized that I was carrying more than just memories. I was carrying a mindset. I was carrying a mindset that said, don't trust too easily. Don't get too close. Don't let anyone have the power to hurt you like that again. And friend, that's the thing about unforgiveness, true unforgiveness. It doesn't just affect your relationship with the person who hurt you. It actually shapes how you show up in every other relationship afterward. Forgiving my father wasn't about saying that what he did was okay. It was about acknowledging that holding on to that pain was not healing me. It was hardening me. It took prayer, it took therapy, and it took time. But one day I realized the forgiveness that I needed to give wasn't about him. It was about me saying, God, I trust you to heal what my father broke. But that moment didn't rewrite the past. What it did was release its power over my present. Years later, I had to face forgiveness again. This time in a completely different way than with my father. Different relationship, same heart challenge. My first husband, the father of my children, made choices that broke the covenant that we built together. There were betrayals, disappointments, and layers of hurt that cut deep. And this isn't about blame, this is about truth-telling. And as a mother, a woman, and a believer, I wrestled hard with that because I wanted to be strong. I wanted to move forward, but the truth is that forgiveness over and over felt impossible. I thought that if I forgave, it meant that I was saying what happened didn't matter. But here's what God showed me. Forgiveness doesn't minimize what happened. It neutralizes its power over you. So when I finally began to release that bitterness, something shifted. My peace returned. My sleep came back. I could look at my children without the ache of resentment clouding my joy. Forgiving him didn't mean that I had to reconcile. It meant that I was done letting the choices that he made define my story. And I think that's something that every woman needs to hear. You can forgive someone and still honor your boundaries. You can release what they did without returning to what they're capable of doing again. And that's what ruthlessly intentional forgiveness actually looks like. Releasing with wisdom. But even as I say that, I've realized something. And I need to be completely honest with you. Even as I've been recording this very episode on forgiveness, life has been testing me in real time. Something unexpected came up that pulled me right back into the emotions of an old chapter that I thought was completely closed. And it reminded me that forgiveness is not a one-time finish line that you cross. Sometimes God circles you back, not to reopen the wound, but to reveal just how much healing has already taken root. It's kind of like he whispers, "See, you can face it now, you can handle it, and you're still standing." So if you find yourself revisiting something you thought you were done with, don't see it as failure. Don't see it as setback. See it as fruit. You've grown, and that's what being ruthlessly intentional is really all about. Moments like that remind me why forgiveness can feel so complicated. It's layered, it's emotional, it's confusing, and it is definitely not linear. And that's why I want to take a moment to really unpack what forgiveness actually is and what it isn't. Because sometimes we confuse forgiveness with reconciliation or even weakness. So here's what forgiveness is. A decision to stop letting the offense own you. An act of faith that hands justice back to God. A sign of strength, not surrender. Forgiveness is not forgetting what happened, or pretending that it didn't hurt you, or letting someone back into your life without seeing change. You can forgive and still remember. You can forgive and still hold boundaries. You can forgive and still say, "This chapter is closed." Ephesians 4:31 and 32 reminds us, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander. Instead, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." That doesn't mean you have to force compassion before you're ready. It means that you give God permission to begin softening the places that pain has hardened. Forgiveness also ties directly into self-confidence, because choosing to forgive requires deep trust in your own emotional maturity. It's like saying, "I know who I am and I know what I deserve, and I won't let what happened to me become who I am. Ruthlessly intentional forgiveness requires courage to believe that your peace is worth protecting, to believe that your healing is worth the discomfort, and to believe that you are strong enough to move forward, even sometimes without closure. Confidence isn't just walking with your head held high, my friend. It's walking away from the things that keep you low. And forgiving doesn't make you weak. It's proof that you've outgrown the pain. Forgiveness is at the very core of our faith. But that doesn't mean that it's easy. Not by a long shot. Even Jesus wrestled with forgiveness on the cross, praying, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." When I think about that, I'm reminded that forgiveness is a divine act. It's something that we do with God, not something that we do for people. Psalm 147:3 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." And that means healing and forgiveness walk hand in hand. When I finally forgave my father and finally forgave my former husband, it didn't happen in one big moment. It happened in layers, over time. Every time I caught myself rehearsing or reliving the hurt, I chose to stop and pray instead of pressing replay in my head. Every time I wanted to justify being angry because I felt it was justifiable, I chose to take a deep breath, breathe, and release it again and again and again. Forgiveness is a process, my friend, but it's also a practice. And when you practice it with God, something incredible happens. The bitterness begins to fade and peace starts taking up space again. And maybe that's the real beauty of forgiveness, realizing that even when life circles you back to old pain or reopens old wounds, you are no longer the same woman who was first wounded by it. You're wiser, you're steadier, you are rooted in grace. Because when God brings you face to face with something that you thought you'd already forgiven, that's not punishment. That's proof. Proof that you have grown. Proof that you can face it differently this time. And proof that His grace really does make all things new. So here's why it hurts. The truth is, friend, forgiveness hurts. It hurts because forgiveness feels like letting somebody off the hook. But the reality is they were never on your hook to begin with. Forgiveness hurts because it forces you to surrender control and to let God handle the things that you can't fix. It hurts because sometimes the people that you're forgiving will never say, "I'm sorry," but you forgive anyway. And that's not to rewrite history, but to reclaim your own future. And that reclamation, that is where healing turns into strength. So if you're listening today and something inside you still aches when you think of someone's name or you remember a certain season, this is your invitation to breathe. Because you don't have to fix it today. You just have to decide that you are done carrying it. So here's your journal prompt. Who or what do I need to release so that I can make room for peace? That's a powerful one. Because forgiveness doesn't erase the pain. It actually redeems it. And every time you choose to forgive, you are choosing freedom over and over again. So, all right, my friend, that is today's episode of Bounce Back Black Woman. And whoo, sis, this one was deep. So if you felt it in your spirit, I want you to sit with it and let it minister to you. Listen as many times as you need because we are in this together, friend. And if you know another woman who's walking through her own forgiveness journey, please share this episode with her. You never know how your obedience might actually bless someone else's healing. Be sure to follow the podcast so that you don't miss the final episode in this Ruthlessly Intentional series. Make sure to subscribe to my insider emails either by visiting the website at bouncebackblackwoman.com or checking the show notes, because next week we are talking about ruthlessly intentional happiness. Because after you've faced your truth, healed your heart, and forgiven the things that hurt you, you deserve to feel joy again. And so until next time, my friend, remember this: you are not broken. You are blooming. Keep bouncing back and keep being ruthlessly intentional. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey. And guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.